Hello, brothers. This episode is being recorded as helicopters are flying overhead from a protest nearby on 3rd and Fairfax in the Los Angeles area. And I'm recording this bonus episode because I just released a Being a Man episode about moving from oppression to celebration. And then this same week, George Floyd was killed by a white police officer while other officers watched and let it happen. You know, the white man who killed George Floyd had a long documented history of problems between him and the community he serves. He's been a known problem that his superiors overlooked with fatal results. I judge that the superiors of the officer who killed Floyd are culpable as well. In my BAM episode on moving from oppression to celebration, I lament the lack of celebration, the lack of stage 5 self-realization of gay men. I still believe it's important. I still believe we should celebrate who we are. But Floyd's murder, yes, I'm asserting that it was a murder, illustrates how much privilege I enjoy every day, and it makes me reflect on all of this. And while I was recording that episode, the stage 1 level of oppression to celebration, stage 1 is oppression, and oppression includes being systematically attacked, incarcerated, and murdered by the dominant class. You know, it's being denied economic, educational, and medical parity. Something we keep saying over and over, and we shake our heads yes, and things don't change. While I was recording that, another man was being killed by people we hire to protect us. We are now officially halfway through the year 2020, and Black people are still being systematically decimated by people who look like me, by white men. That means it's our problem to fix. I'm talking about white men. And yet we do not. And yet I, with a lot of shame, say I do not. And I consider myself an ally. That's why I support the protesters, and I support everything they are doing. Yeah, I support everything that they're doing. I support it as much as I supported the torching of police cars that were burned in front of San Francisco City Hall on the night Dan White was acquitted for shooting and killing 2 men in City Hall. You know, and I believe that the reason he was acquitted is that one of them was Harvey Milk. A gay man taking the risk of rocking the boat of power. During our fight against AIDS, we learned that silence equals death. Silence equals death. You know what? When we were good little boys asking for help, guess what came? No help. People asking us to wait. So we fought back. And I understand the anger. I try to understand the anger. I never will, because I'm not a part of that targeted group. But if I'm this angry, I can only imagine how angry the people this actually affects on a daily, hourly basis feel. I see today that calm, orderly, civil disobedience equals death. Again, civil disobedience equals death for Black men in this country. In fact, taking a knee during a ball game is not even tolerated. Remember, the vice president staged a publicity stunt that showed him walking out of a game because a Black man had the guts to call out the fact that racism is still alive and well in this country. That same vice president is now saying via tweet that peaceful protest is okay. I guess he's changed his mind. Anyway, white people, white people keep telling Black people how to vent, then make excuses for the white men who are killing the Black men. I'll just say that again. White people keep telling Black people how to release their anger. And while we're telling them how to release their anger, we make excuses for the white men who are killing the Black men. If civil discussion and civil disobedience just lead to more murder at the hands of the ruling class, What are these human beings supposed to do? Keep taking the indignities, the slights, the corruption, the murders of innocent men? What would white Americans do if they felt threatened by a powerful external force? If white Americans felt threatened, and if we sent these men overseas to kill other dark-complected people, we'd give them applause, we'd pin a medal on them. They would be heroes who are defending the homeland. Well, guess what? The way I see it, we have Americans under attack, fighting for their lives, their very freaking lives. I wish I could say that it's un-American to ignore them, but ignoring the suffering of our neighbors and blaming them for their own injuries that we caused seems to be a long-held American tradition. As a gay man, I have a tiny glimpse into the mental, spiritual, and physical effects of systemic oppression. And let me be clear, as a white gay man, I know only a tiny glimpse into the injustices suffered on an hourly basis by targeted groups. So, I have this podcast, and I'm raising my voice here. This bonus episode might be as much about relieving my own white guilt as it is helping men at their communities who are suffering. I copped that, but I truly do want to help. To that end, let me speak from my position as a white man and offer the following. Again, this is not an African American problem. This is not a black problem. This is a problem created by white Americans, and we need to join our brave American heroes fighting in the streets, in political offices, and in our everyday interactions. This requires the mature warrior energy Dr. Carl Jung outlined with his mature masculine archetypes. That may sound kind of esoteric here, but what I'm saying is these people are reacting as warriors. And mature warrior energy fights in service to the community. And that's what I see happening here. Another thing a warrior energy does, is it creates boundaries and it holds them. I see that happening too. Even the boundaries of saying, yeah, civil disobedience is okay, have been crossed. Civil disobedience happens, and black men get murdered by police on a regular basis. Decade after decade after freaking decade. I see black Americans fighting for their community. And I am glad to see 3 San Francisco Bay Area police unions offering a joint statement that provides boundaries for their own officers. The Board of Directors of the San Francisco Police Officers Association, San Jose Police Officers Association, and the Oakland Police Officers Association addressed this controversial death of George Floyd. And they provided some boundaries for the people providing our protection. They mention boundaries that have been crossed. They call out the other police officers present for not intervening, and they denounce this incident and all others like it. It's a tiny step, but it's a step towards what will someday may be an appropriate response to street executions performed by the dominant class. Until the culture truly changes, a culture that sees innocent men being killed with impunity by men in power and then asking the community of the murdered innocent men to be calm, until that changes, the culture does not deserve peace. Murder by the dominant class should be upsetting to all of us, including all my white male brothers. So how can you help? That's hard. It's hard to say. So my friends and I were discussing it, and here's a couple things you can do today. Become more than just an empathetic bystander. Training and practice are key for avoiding being just a bystander when racial injustice occurs. A group called Hollowback, that's spelled HOLLABACK, has information on how to respond when racial disrespect is happening. Follow the links in the show notes for the hollaback training. We'll take it together. Here is a list in the show notes, of the most vulnerable Senate seats held by members that rubber stamp anything, literally anything that comes from the Trump-McConnell machine, including all the racist mumbo-jumbo. So the earlier we donate to these opponents, the more effective our money will be in creating change. I suggest you listen to the list or check out the show notes and then respond and then choose someone to vote against. That's a very detailed way to do it. Or you can just simply click on the link, Take Back Our Senate, in our show notes at Act Blue, or just put into Google, Take Back Our Senate, Act Blue, and you'll get a link and you can send money right now, today, when it means the most, when it will be the most effective at changing the lawmakers in the Senate and making some sort of change to all of this. Then finally, I think it's time that we saw more white people on the streets when a black man is murdered by a man in uniform. I will admit that I have not done that yet. And I wrote in my notes here that I'll actively look for ways to engage on that level. And guess what? There is a protest happening not far from here. I just might join it. Act up, fight AIDS, silence equals death, Black Lives Matter, say his name, George Floyd.